They say rock bottom feels like the end. But maybe it's not. Maybe it's the invitation. Maybe it's the moment when everything you thought you needed gets stripped. So what actually matters can surface. Because here's a truth most people aren't ready to hear. The version of you praying for a breakthrough can't survive what the breakthrough demands. You want the next level. Then understand the door is locked for a reason. And the key is hidden in the pieces of the man you used to be. You see, the blessing doesn't come when life is easy. It doesn't come when you're celebrated. It comes when you're tested, and you choose to keep going anyway. When you stop asking why me and start saying try me. This is not motivation. This is not hype. This is the moment your future self has been waiting for. Because the breaking didn't come to end you. It came to begin you. Let's begin. What if the pain you're feeling is the doorway? What if the storm you're in isn't punishment, but preparation? What if the breaking is not where you fall apart, but where you finally become the version of yourself this world has been waiting for? No one wants to hear that, because we've been trained to seek comfort, not character. We chase ease, not elevation. We pray for blessings, but run from the battles that deliver them. But here's the truth you won't hear in your social feed. The blessing doesn't come when you're at your strongest. It comes when you're broken, stripped, humbled raw, and still standing. It comes after the betrayal, after the failure, after the season where everything you thought was secure starts to collapse. That's when God leans in. That's when the universe whispers, now you're finally ready. You see, success doesn't begin with strategy. It begins with surrender. Not the kind where you give up, but the kind where you give in to the call that's been chasing you since you were a child. Because life doesn't test the version of you you post online. Life tests the version of you that shows up in silence, when nobody's clapping, when everything hurts, when quitting makes more sense than continuing. That's the battlefield of transformation. Edison didn't invent the light bulb in celebration. He found it through 10,000 failures. Ford didn't create an empire by waiting for approval. He moved when people called him crazy. Lincoln wasn't forged in victory. He was shaped in the crucible of relentless defeat. These men weren't born legends. They were broken first. They were misunderstood, rejected, doubted, and through that breaking, they became undeniable. So here's the question. What are you becoming in your pain? Because every struggle you face is not just a test, it's a mirror. It shows you the cracks in your identity, the illusions in your confidence, the gap between who you've been pretending to be and who you're meant to become. If you're in a valley right now, don't run. If everything around you is falling apart, don't rush to rebuild. Let it fall. Let the false identity collapse. Let the ego burn. Because beneath the rubble is the real you. The one who doesn't need external applause to feel valuable. The one who doesn't shrink for approval. The one who doesn't negotiate with fear, weakness, or delay. But to meet that version of you, you've got to go through the breaking. And not just survive it, submit to it. Most people never cross that threshold. They numb the pain, avoid the process, or decorate the prison cell of their own limitations. They wait for conditions to improve before they decide to rise. But blessings don't come to the comfortable. They come to the committed. The ones who choose to keep moving when there's no light, no map, no guarantee. The people who learn to say, I don't know what's next, but I know I'm not going back. This is what Napoleon Hill meant when he said, every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. But the seed is invisible in the beginning. It doesn't come with a sign. It comes buried beneath hardship. And it's not the situation that grows you, it's your response to it. You want strength. Then face the thing that scares you. You want clarity. Then sit in the silence you've been avoiding. You want power. Then stop waiting for a better day and start becoming the person who creates one. Because you don't get to the mountaintop with soft hands and clean feet. You get there bruised, bloody blistered, but unbroken. That's the paradox. The breaking doesn't destroy you. It reveals you. It exposes the strength that was buried under distractions. It unlocks the grit that only pain can awaken. And it forces you to become something stronger than your circumstances. But you have to choose it. Because no one's coming to rescue you. No one's going to build your discipline for you. No one's going to force you to face the demons you keep avoiding with entertainment, food scrolling, and excuses. That's your job. That's your inner war. And you've got to be willing to lose the lesser version of you in order to meet the greater one. The version of you that wakes up with fire, not fear. The one who stops needing motivation because discipline is now your default. The one who doesn't rise when it's convenient, but because it's required. And here's the twist you didn't see coming. The pain didn't come to break you. It came to build you. Not the version you've been, but the one you were born to become. Every storm you've survived wasn't just a test. It was an invitation. An invitation to rise, to step beyond the surface-level version of your life. To strip away the noise and finally hear the one voice that matters, your own. But here's what no one tells you: clarity doesn't come first. You don't get vision before the breaking. You get it inside the breaking. You see, most people wait. They wait for confidence before they speak. They wait for results before they commit. They wait for applause before they move. But the men who reshape history, the Carnegies, the Disneys, the Lincolns, they move before the world understands them. They act when there is no guarantee, only conviction. They don't wait for signs. They become the sign. And you must too. If you're walking through fire right now, it's not the end of you. It's the forging of you, the part where all the softness burns off and all that remains is steel. Steel purpose, steel belief, steel focus. But fire doesn't feel like a blessing. Not at first. It feels like loss, like loneliness, like being invisible while everyone else seems to be thriving. And that's where most people misinterpret the season. They think their isolation means rejection. They think the delay means denial. They think the silence means God is gone. But listen to me, He's not gone. He's developing you in private so you can carry weight in public. He's stripping away what's fragile so He can build what's foundational. He's pruning not to punish, but to multiply. Because elevation demands elimination. You don't rise with everything you had. You rise because you're willing to let go. Let go of the old blueprint. Let go of the version of success that was rooted in ego. Let go of the identity that was built on needing to be seen. This is the season where your vision gets clarified through loss, where your purpose gets sharpened by pain, where your confidence is no longer dependent on performance but on principle. This is where you stop trying to prove yourself and start becoming yourself. You want success. Good. But are you ready to be misunderstood for it? Because the road to greatness is narrow. It's lonely. It's filled with days where you question your sanity, where you doubt if it's even worth it. And that's the point. The process has to crush your dependency on external validation. Because if you still need their approval, you're not ready for impact. Real power is quiet. It doesn't chase followers, it attracts them. It doesn't beg to be seen, it becomes so disciplined, so precise, so magnetic that people can't ignore it. But that kind of power isn't born in a comfortable life. It's born in the pressure, in the season where nothing makes sense, where everything feels too heavy, where you cry and pray and bleed and still keep going. That's when the blessing starts to form. Not in the bank account, not in the likes, but in your identity. You don't become a king when you get the crown. You become a king when you learn how to lead yourself through the wilderness. This is the wilderness, and your response right now will shape the next decade of your life. So the question is not, why is this happening to me? The question is, who am I becoming through this? Because the old, you can't go where you're called to go. The old habits, the old excuses, the old beliefs, they don't survive the next level. They die here, in this furnace, in this stretch of time that looks like failure, but is actually formation. You are being formed, not fast, but deeply. And when it's time, when the foundation is firm, the breakthrough doesn't just come, it erupts. And when it does, the world will say it was sudden, overnight, instant. But you'll know. You'll remember the nights you suffered in silence. You'll remember the mornings you got up without motivation. You'll remember the days you wanted to quit and didn't. That's the blessing. Not the applause, not the outcome, but the becoming. There's a line few are willing to cross. A line between who you've been and who you were born to be. That line isn't external, it's internal. And you don't cross it with words. You cross it with decisions. Decisions that hurt. Decisions that cost you friends. That cost you comfort. That cost you your old identity. But on the other side of that line is freedom. The kind of freedom only earned through fire. The freedom to walk in any room and need nothing. The freedom to say no without explanation. The freedom to stop performing and start embodying. This is not for the weak. This is not for the someday crowd. This is not for the people that's still negotiating with mediocrity. This is for the decided, the locked in, the disciplined, the ones who stopped waiting for the blessing and started becoming the vessel that could hold it. Because, hear me, a small container can't hold a great blessing. And if you're in a season of stretching, it's because the container of your identity is being expanded. Not to hurt you, but to make room. Room for deeper vision. Room for more responsibility. Room for the kind of influence that requires character, not charisma. So stop asking for the blessing if you're not willing to be broken first. Stop asking for the crown if you're not willing to carry the weight. Stop asking for the fire if you're afraid to be refined by it. The blessing comes after the breaking you. If you want to carry power, you have to pass through pain, and not just endure it, extract from it. Learn from it. Let it chisel away who you're not, so what remains is unshakable. Because here's the truth, you must stop avoiding. You don't get to skip the process. You don't get to fast-track mastery. You don't get to speak with authority if you haven't bled in silence. The words only carry weight when the wounds have healed into wisdom. Everyone wants influence, but few want to go through the isolation that forges it. Everyone wants clarity, but most run from the stillness that reveals it. Everyone wants elevation, but no one wants to live at the altitude where the air gets thin and the excuses can't survive. You say you want greatness. Good. Then you must learn to be still when everything in you wants to run. You must sit in the room of your own doubt and not move until your inner voice returns. Because your ability to hold pressure in the dark is what earns you the light. And let me be clear, you will be misunderstood. You will be underestimated. You will be labeled too intense, too serious, too obsessed. Let them talk. Let them scroll. Let them laugh. You are not here to be liked. You are here to lead. And leaders are always built in the shadows first. Their names are unknown. Their results are invisible. But their discipline is unshakable. And that is what makes them dangerous. Not their gifts, their grit, not their image, their intention. Because while others chase dopamine, you chase discipline. While others chase noise, you choose silence. While others chase recognition, you choose responsibility. That's what separates those who flirt with purpose from those who become it. So what does that mean practically? It means you start choosing hard on purpose. It means you stop waiting to feel ready and start acting like the man you're becoming. It means you burn the plan B. Delete the exit strategy. Refuse to play small just to stay comfortable. Comfort is the cage. Discipline is the key. And yes, It will feel lonely at first. It will feel boring. It will feel like no one sees you, no one gets it, no one's cheering. Good. That's the perfect condition for you to build something real. Something that doesn't collapse the moment applause fades. Something that doesn't depend on external energy. Because that kind of confidence, real confidence, is built in the dark. When you show up and no one's watching. When you execute without praise. When you hold the line even when the reward seems 1,000 miles away. That's the edge. That's the posture of the man who wins over time. And understand this, life doesn't reward the fastest. It rewards the most consistent. The one who moves the needle every day, even by an inch. Because momentum is a spiritual law. Every step compounds. Every action echoes. Every decision sends a signal to your subconscious about who you are becoming. And eventually, the signal becomes a system. The system becomes a standard. And the standard becomes your identity. You're not faking it. You're forging it. You don't have to pretend to be confident. You just have to become consistent. Because consistency will do for your confidence what motivation never could. But that consistency, it requires a different level of commitment. Not the kind you post about, the kind you bleed for. The kind that says, I will not miss. I will not delay. I will not settle. Even when it hurts. Even when it's boring. Even when nobody sees. Because greatness doesn't live in moments. It lives in momentum. It lives in the hours you think don't matter. It lives in the choices no one tracks. It lives in the decisions you make in silence. And make no mistake, your silence today is shaping your volume tomorrow. Your stillness now is building your storm later. Your restraint in this season is becoming the reason you can carry weight in the next. So stop seeking stimulation. Start seeking stillness. Because the clarity you crave won't come through scrolling, it comes through sacrifice. The strength you seek isn't hiding in your comfort, it's hiding in your discipline. And the identity you want to walk in is waiting on the other side of the version of you that's still addicted to convenience. That version must die. Now, because the longer you delay your evolution, the longer you deny your destiny. You don't need a better routine. You need a deeper reason. And that reason doesn't come from the surface. It comes from the fire, from the breaking, from the night you fell apart and decided to build anyway. And if you're still breathing, it's not over. If you're still standing, the mission remains. If you still feel the pull inside you, then you're not done yet. Because the blessing always comes after the breaking. Not before, not during, after. After you've let go of your need to control. After you've died to the version of you that sought approval. After you've walked through the fire and refused to let it take your voice. That's when the breakthrough hits. Not with trumpets, but with truth. Quiet, undeniable, unstoppable truth that says, you are no longer who you used to be. Not because you posted quotes, not because you bought books, but because you became the kind of person who doesn't need to be convinced to rise. You just rise, because it's who you are now. The most powerful man in the room is the one who doesn't flinch. Not because he's never felt fear, but because he conquered it privately long before anyone ever saw him succeed. He stood in front of the mirror on the days his confidence cracked, and he didn't look away. He didn't cover it with distraction or patch it up with shallow motivation. He met it. He stared down the voice that said, "You'll never make it," and replied, "Watch me." Because power isn't volume, it's presence. It's the stillness in your bones when everything around you is chaotic. It's the calm conviction that comes from keeping promises you made in private to yourself. And the only way you earn that is through the breaking. The blessing, the real one, isn't more money. It's self-respect. It's waking up and knowing you don't owe the world an explanation for why you walk the way you do. Because you've earned your stride. With every disciplined morning, every battle you fought without complaining, Every day you chose integrity when no one was watching. That's what makes you magnetic. Not your looks, not your resume, but your gravity. The internal weight of a person who knows exactly who they are and doesn't flinch when tested. Because here's the truth they won't tell you. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. And if you want to attract greatness, you better become it first in the dark, in the mundane, in the moments no one sees. This is where most people tap out. Right here, when the applause stops, when the results aren't immediate, when the process gets heavy. Because somewhere along the line they confused convenience with alignment. They thought feels good meant for me. But alignment doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it feels like pruning. Sometimes it feels like isolation. Sometimes it feels like everything is being taken away. But it's not punishment. It's positioning. You're not being rejected. You're being redirected. You're not being crushed. You're being compressed. So you can rise with more force, more focus, more fire. Because you weren't born for comfort. You were born for impact. And impact requires depth, which means you must go through what most people refuse to face. It means embracing the days where nothing makes sense. It means moving anyway, building anyway, trusting anyway. Because that's the currency of breakthrough, relentless obedience. You don't see the path, but you walk anyway. You don't hear the applause, but you execute anyway. You don't feel the progress, but you keep showing up. Not because you're motivated, but because you're anchored in a standard, anchored in a calling, anchored in the decision you made long before this season started. That's what makes you different. Not your genetics, not your background, but your refusal to let circumstances define your consistency. And now we come to the shift. The moment where the old you would have tapped out, but the new you doesn't blink. This is the inflection point, the sacred moment where you realize you've crossed the threshold. You don't recognize the man who started this journey. You don't operate from survival anymore. You move with strategy. You move with stillness. You move like someone who knows the blessing is already yours. You just have to become the vessel worthy of holding it. And that vessel, it doesn't leak energy. It doesn't beg for validation. It doesn't crack under pressure. Because it's been forged in it. This is when you stop chasing and start attracting. You stop trying to become successful, and instead you embody the principles that produce success. The discipline, the order, the clarity, the fire. It's not about faking it. It's about fusing it to your identity so tightly that even on your worst day, your standard still outruns their best effort. This is what Hill meant when he said success comes to those who become success-conscious, not success-curious, not success-inspired. Success-conscious. That means every thought, every action, every environment is filtered through the lens of who you are becoming. Not what's trending, not what's comfortable, but what's aligned with the man building legacy. So what now? You keep going. You double down. You strip out the noise. You protect your energy, like it's sacred because it is. You move like someone who knows he's carrying something holy. A calling, a standard, a mission that cannot be delayed any longer. You no longer operate by mood, but by mission. You no longer let distractions rent space in your mind. You no longer apologize for being intense, focused, or too much. Because too much is exactly what's required to break average. Too much is how Ford changed transportation. Too much is how Lincoln held a nation together. Too much is how Edison lit the world. And now it's your turn. The blessing is coming, but only after the breaking. So embrace it, welcome it, thank it. Because when it's over, you won't just have more. You'll be more. You'll walk different, speak different, move different, think different, because you are different. This is your resurrection season. Not the resurrection that the world celebrates with confetti and cameras, but the quiet kind. The one that happens in silence when no one's watching and everything inside of you wants to stay dead. But you rise anyway. You rise with cracked hands and a steady spine. You rise with scar tissue and sacred vision. You rise not because it's easy, but because the alternative is unacceptable. Because staying broken, staying lost, staying trapped in a life that doesn't reflect who you were born to be, that's not an option anymore. The old you was the seed. This version is the emergence. And like every seed, you had to be buried. You had to be pressed. You had to be hidden for a season. Because growth happens in the dark before it ever breaks into the light. You weren't being overlooked. You were being rooted. You weren't being punished. You were being positioned. So when the moment came, you wouldn't just bloom, you'd take over the whole field. That's what's happening now. You're not evolving. You're erupting. Not because you have all the answers, but because you've finally stopped running from the questions. You've stopped avoiding the discomfort. You've stopped playing small so others can feel comfortable. And now every piece of you that used to shrink is expanding. Your capacity, your energy, your focus, your fire. But don't forget what got you here. It wasn't luck. It wasn't hype. It wasn't shortcuts. It was the breaking. It was the nights you cried and got up anyway. It was the mornings you didn't feel strong but still kept your word. It was the stillness, the silence, the discipline. Don't trade it now. Don't become soft just because your seasons start to feel smoother. The edge is what made you. Keep it sharp. The world doesn't need another comfortable half-awake man. It needs you fully alive, fully locked in, fully responsible for the weight you carry. You're not here to coast. You're not here to flex. You're here to build. Build what outlives you. Build what reshapes the bloodline. Build what makes the next generation thank God you were the one who went through hell and didn't stop walking. This is what legacy is made of. Not fame, but fortitude. Not attention, but alignment. Not comfort, but calling. And your calling is non-negotiable now. You know too much. You've been through too much. You've seen too much to ever go back to the man who once tolerated average. He's gone. And in his place stands a force. A quiet, grounded, dangerous force. Built in silence. Fueled by standards. Anchored in truth. So what happens now? You build brick by brick, breath by breath. And you do it like your future depends on it, because it does. You don't build when you feel like it. You build because you said you would. You build even when the crowd walks away. You build when the results lag behind the effort. You build when it's raining, when it's dark, when it's quiet. You keep building because your consistency is your credibility. And your credibility is your power. You keep the habits. You keep the focus. You keep the environment that made you sharp. You protect your morning. You guard your mind. You eliminate anything that interrupts your energy, even if it comes wearing a smile. And you remember, you don't owe the old version of you a thing. Not your loyalty, not your time, not your energy. You gave him enough. Now it's time to give your future something greater. The man you were is gone. The man you're becoming is inevitable. And the distance between the two is only one thing: discipline. Not emotion, not information, not good intentions. Discipline, the kind that doesn't ask for permission, the kind that doesn't explain itself, the kind that walks into a room and shifts the air not by what it says, but by what it is. That's what you've earned now, not just a blessing, but a new identity. The man who locks in and stays locked in. The man who doesn't flinch when challenged. The man who's more interested in alignment than applause. The man who walks in silence but builds in thunder. You are that man now, and the only thing that can stop you is choosing to forget who you've become. So don't go back to old rhythms. Don't entertain old distractions. Don't make excuses for people who never understood your vision. Let them misunderstand you. Let them underestimate you. Let them count you out. And when you re-emerge, you won't need to announce it. Because the blessing will speak for itself. And the silence you endured will echo louder than any speech ever could. So mark this moment. Mark it with a line, a vow, a standard. Let it divide the man you used to be from the man you've become. No more explaining. No more apologizing. No more performing. From this moment forward, you move like someone who was rebuilt in fire, who rose from the ruins, who found strength in stillness and carved power from thin. You are not average. You never were. You were simply becoming. And now that the breaking has passed, the blessing begins. Walk like it. Build like it. Speak like it. Because the world won't recognize you anymore, but it will remember you. You are the evidence that it's possible, that pain has purpose, that discipline rewrites destiny. You are the proof that the blessing doesn't come before the breaking. It comes after the breaking you. Now go and let them feel the difference. So if something inside of you felt called out, it wasn't by accident. The pain you've carried, the silence you've survived, it wasn't meaningless. It was the shaping, not the ending. And if this message reached you, it means the breaking has done its job. Now it's time to build. Not louder, not faster, but truer. From alignment, from clarity, from the strength that doesn't need to prove, only to proceed. You're not here to explain who you've become. You're here to embody it, quietly, completely, unapologetically. So take a breath, not because it's over, but because you're ready now. The world doesn't need the old you restored, it needs the new you revealed. The breaking was the blueprint. The blessing is already on the way. Walk like it.